If you're the right mindset, that sets you up for the next thing, and you're going to do the next thing 10 times better because you've gone through that failure.
If it's a really downtime, something like that, you don't want to bring that home. You don't want to put that on your employees' heads because they've got enough to worry about.
You know, if you have the ability to even start a business, think how lucky you are to actually just go and do that. Even if you're doing it for 6 months and it doesn't work, think how lucky you are to have that opportunity to start a business.
So welcome to another episode of Startup Dynamics, hosted by me, Jonas Urbonas. And I'm joined by Jack Gerard, as always, who is the employee of Orfi Active. And today, we've got a very, very special guest, Mark Brown from Editor Skis, who's been running it for about 15 years now, which is essentially a editing keyboard for all your editing needs, whether it's video, Photoshop, whatever it may be. And I've recently seen a picture of Snoop Dogg using it in his own studio. What's that like when you start something like 15 years ago from your bedroom and then seeing somebody like that just using it?
It's really cool because, yeah, like you say, we started from the bedroom. It was originally, we set the business up for about £100, just working all of the hours, till 2 in the morning. And it started out as a sticker set, and it's obviously sort of grown over these years. But it is nice because having like an online business, you don't generally speak to many customers, you don't see them. Yeah. You just sort of post these products out, and then every now and again you get a little photo like that sent in that someone else has seen. We weren't told about it from the sort of record company or anything, and it's just kind of like, yeah, this is why I'm doing it. This is why
It reminds you of the why.
Yeah.
I like how you brushed over a Snoop Dogg photo as just a little photo.
yeah, Snoop, yeah.
So explain to me, like how does a guy from Norwich, who drops out of uni, in a pursuit to become a video producer, decides to come up with a product, and 15 years later has shitloads of awards in like e-commerce business, retailers. We've got the innovation award from eBay recently. Yeah. You're doing close to $1 million in sales, I think, and all of these great things. How do you get from that to that?
It's very slow. I mean, I as you say, I sort of dropped out of uni. I never thought of myself as wanting to be a business person. I think originally how it all started was I was studying media production and film at uni and college, and I dropped out of uni because I was like so into editing that I was kind of teaching myself at the library and a little bit online sort of then, and just when we got to uni, I just felt like I already learnt this stuff, and probably a bit arrogant almost, but I just want to get doing it. I want to get out there and make some corporate videos, or I want to do something like that. So I left uni after the first year, had a few kind of media corporate jobs in Middlesbrough where I went to uni, came back home to Norwich in sort of the Great Yarmouth area, couldn't get any jobs, but I'd sort of saved up every spare penny I had for this sort of big editing computer that you needed at the time, bought the speakers, bought the monitor. The software was expensive, and the last thing I wanted was a kind of a shortcut keyboard. But at the time, the only ones that were available were these sort of £400, £500 keyboards, and I just thought there's got to be a cheaper way of getting one of these. And at the time, there wasn't. They were just like built into these sort of edit suites.
And so would you need to buy a new one if the software would update or something?
Yeah, you'd need to buy a new one. They were like big and ugly. They're horrible.
Right.
So I just said to a friend, I think we could design almost like a sticker set that you could just stick onto your Mac or PC keyboard. So we just got around to mine. We designed one for Adobe Premiere, which is a video editing program. And really, to be honest, it was just for us. I just wanted one. I thought if we can stick them on eBay and make the money back that it's cost us to make them, which is like £100, I'm happy. I've got my own little sticker set on here. And we put them on eBay, and they sold pretty quickly. We sold out within the first sort of, I think, couple of weeks. And
I have seen stickers before. And back when I was a teenager, but I think they were like gaming stickers or something like that. And one thing with stickers was, and I think that's why maybe keyboards were so expensive or something like that, that they would last 2 days. because they would wear off, they would go off because you're constantly doing it. Was that something you really had to think about and like find the right, I don't know, mold or whatever it may be, just to make them reliable?
100%. I keep forgetting this, but the first sort of 100 sticker sets we did, and even beyond that, because we'd sold out and then we reordered them, we sent them out, and then it was about 2 months later, we'd start getting emails saying, I've just bought your sticker set for £9, whatever it was,
right.
And it's completely faded off, and I can't peel them back off my keyboard, and we're like, oh no.
Right.
And we'd bought these stickers that from a company, I think down in Kent, that basically does stickers for the side of vans. So they were designed to go through car washes, designed to kind of take UV light all day long, but they just couldn't work very well with human sweat. And so we had to keep going back to the drawing board, and we replaced them. They put some new lacquer on the top. That seemed to work for about 6 months, and then they faded again. And we just kind of kept going through this process of actually the first probably 200 customers, every few months we had to send them a new pack because we were just improving it and improving it. And eventually we got to this
Without
point,
them ordering?
Yeah, without them ordering. They would just email and say, look, this is faded. And cause we probably didn't test them enough, or we used them, but we kept our keyboards quite clean, and we didn't allow for people who like eating KFC and just getting the grease on the keys. So it was just kind of trial and error and trying new materials. And we eventually got to this material that had like 3 or 4 layers of this kind of clear plastic coating on, and they didn't fade. They would last about 4 years before they faded. But yeah, the first few ones was just a nightmare, absolute nightmare. Luckily, most people stuck with us and they were quite happy because we kept replacing them. But it just meant we were making money, but we were kind of having to then go back and replace all of the sticker sets again. So we didn't really make proper money for a good couple of years, because it was just trial and error. It was ordering these sticker sets, and then you would hear that 20 have faded, so we can't then sell the other 100 we've got laying here. We need to replace these, so we kind of would waste a lot of stock.
No pun intended, but what made you stick with it?
It was just, I think because the sales were there, we thought, how hard can this be? We only need a sticker set to not fade with like a finger. How, there must be some sticker that can do this. And it was, it was an absolute nightmare. But it kind of, because the sales were there, we knew we kind of had something. And then luckily, once we got it to a good level, they didn't really fade anymore. We then got a big order with the BBC, which is really cool. But I mean, at the time of this as well, Editor's Keys was like a side hustle, really. I was a floor manager for ITV, so I used to work on Trisha and Jeremy Kyle and these other talk shows. But because it was freelance work, you wouldn't know if you had a job the next week, you wouldn't get holiday pay, any of that kind of stuff. So it was just something that I had that would just give me a bit of extra pocket money initially. And then it wasn't until a few years later that we designed some other products and actual keyboards to actually enable us to kind of go full-time,
Was it difficult to make that change from kind of part-time to full-time and kind of taking that plunge into full-time startup?
Yeah, definitely, because I think when I made that change, it wasn't like you hear some people where they start a business up, it goes seriously well and they're bringing in like millions and then they can quit that job. For me, it was, I'd set it up with a business partner and we'd kind of fallen out, so I had to get a loan to buy his out of the business, and we weren't making any money at that time, but I just kind of had this sort of faith that I could turn it around, and if we went our separate ways, we'd be able to get the business going again. And so taking this loan, got the sales back up to a good level, but it still wasn't, at the point I quit ITV, I wasn't earning more than I was getting from ITV. But I actually kind of did it in a way that I thought, if I quit now, I'm going to have to make this work. So I wasn't comfortable, so I knew that as soon as I sort of handed my notice in, I was going to be working weekends and evenings to get it to a good level. So I kind of saw it as a bit of a challenge in a way. It was pretty risky, but I thought, this has got to work because I can't afford my rent if it doesn't. And then luckily it did, but yeah.
We recently had a conversation about what kind of mindset you need to have to either be a startup founder or to join a startup. And that's a very interesting point. You just said that, you previously mentioned that you never really saw yourself kind of very like businessy, right?
Yeah.
But then you decided rather than go towards the safety, saying, right, I'm actually going to go full-time with ITV, get my holiday pay, get my pension and everything else. You just said, I'm going to make myself uncomfortable and then take the leap and try to make this happen.
Yeah.
What changed at that point? Like, why did you feel like you had to make that particular decision?
I think having another job, as good as it was to have something more reliable to like pay your rent, I got to a point where I was thinking the business is going well, we're getting sales, but it's not going beyond that level because I can't put enough hours in. So I think I either give up this business and like you say, go full time into ITV and it's potentially a good career, or I know I can get sales in. I know we're getting customers in. We're getting some good reviews in magazines and things like that. I'm sure I can double what we're doing now or triple what we're doing now, but I just need that time and the energy to put into it. So it was partly that. I thought if I left, I could make it work. And then secondly, even though I wouldn't have classed myself as like a business person, I just really enjoyed, to be honest, the riskiness of it. I enjoyed learning about marketing and advertising and just having that kind of control over what you do. So I think I would rather have half the money but really enjoy what I'm doing than I would double the money and probably be doing something that I didn't really enjoy. Yeah. But luckily, when you do enjoy it, it tends to work better and grow over time. So,
because it's interesting, obviously, when you listen to the top guys, right, that made it, your Elon Musks and Mark Cubans and Gary Vaynerchuk's, whatever it may be, they all kind of go, oh, I did my, lemonade stands and I always knew and I always was flipping stuff and whatever, right? And I was always a proponent of you can fall in love and you can become, not necessarily maybe entrepreneurial, but like business-minded at least.
Yeah.
Whereas they almost feel like are saying that you're kind of born with it, right?
Yeah.
So am I correct in assuming that you're full on, that's something you might fall in love with if you're just passionate about what you're actually creating?
Yeah, I think so. I think there's two elements. I always feel like I think you have to have something in you to make you run a business, because I can't remember the quote, but I heard Steve Jobs once say something that all business owners are crazy or insane because why would you do something that makes you work longer hours? Why would you do something where you could lose everything? It's kind of insane to do it. But at the same time, I think if you have that passion, I always felt like these business people were geniuses. They were just brought up, they're either really well educated or they were just geniuses, And what you realise, I think, when you start a business, and you probably feel the same, is that actually it's just like learning lots of little things over time. So, I never knew how to do VAT and accounts and marketing, but because you've got a little passion in what you do, you want to get more sales. So how do I do that? Okay, I'll go to Google. How do you do Google Ads? Okay, I'll learn that. And then I think because it's your thing or it's something you're involved in, you get that little kick that, oh, wow, I just did this ad and now I've got 2 sales in from this. And it starts off slow, but you can now see how this can now turn and go 10 times, 100 times. I'm sure you must feel the same, sort of starting businesses. It's
well, yeah, from my perspective, it was interesting because back in high school, I was always labeled as lazy and not willing to learn things, really? Right? But I was just in the things that I was interested in, and they're not were not in the curriculum, right? And it's interesting because something like VAT and taxes, whatever it may be, it gets more exciting when it's your own thing. If I was doing taxes and accounting for a company, all my days, right? Never in my life. But to do this here, why not, right? And in terms of that, what you just said, it's exciting to learn new things and immediately try to test them out and see how actually they're going to affect your decisions, your sales, your acquisitions, or whatever it may be. So I'm completely on board with you. But I'm interested as well to understand. Obviously, you're not a startup anymore, right? But just the stick is wearing out, right? That's already kind of quite a bit of adversity, and you could just go, it doesn't work, right? As a startup, is there one thing that really stuck to your mind as like a big obstacle that you had to overcome, and how'd you do it?
I think, big obstacle. I think it's, do you know what? I don't think it's necessarily for me. It wasn't the big obstacle. It was just constantly hitting obstacles. So it was like, I've got over this thing. Like I say, we had the stickers failing. We had small things like, I'm sure in the early days we had a problem with a trademark issue. It was nothing too serious, but because we make keyboards for Adobe products and Avid and other companies, I think we just got flagged as this trademark issue. So we got this letter through the post that looked very legal and scary, and it wasn't. It was just they just wanted to change the order of the words.
Right.
But you get that and you think, oh my God, how can I deal with this legal kind of stuff? And then, as I say, me and my business partner sort of fell out. So you kind of, I think at each stage, just have lots of stumbling blocks that I think many people would go, I can't be bothered to do this. This is too much headache. I'm not earning enough money for this anyway. So for me, it was just constant little stumbling blocks, but rather than one huge one. But it's just that, I think it's just that belief that you can do something better. And I think, I think if it was going terribly and we weren't getting any sales, and I probably would have packed it in. But because we had the sales coming in, the customers couldn't see behind the scenes of maybe me and my business partner falling out, or this delay we're getting from the products coming from China, or these sort of things that only you know, or your employees know. They don't see that. And I like that from the customers' end, they're like, oh, you're such a great company, and this is so good, and this was so smooth, and that the ability to kind of do something nice and smoothly for the customer makes me happy. So, I think there's lots of small obstacles for me.
Tell me if I'm wrong, but I kind of, from speaking to you and you, I'm kind of other startup founders, you kind of enjoy those little hiccups at times because, I don't know, tell me if I'm wrong, but you think other people won't be able to overcome these, but I can. That's what puts me as an entrepreneur, as a founder, that type of thing. And you are learning from those little hiccups.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's a really good point. I think I think when you're doing these kind of things, when you hit a stumbling block or an obstacle, I think sometimes in other walks of life you would, like even when I was working at ITV, if you mess something up, you'd feel down for days, and you'd be like, I don't want to show my face tomorrow. How did I mess this up? When you're doing your own business, I think there are people who still think that, and they think, right, I shouldn't be in this anymore. But I look at each failure as like just a way to learn, so that, I think you realise this over many years of running a business. You'll speak to someone, and you'll feel like you still don't know that much about marketing, about business, about all the various stuff. But then when you speak to someone else who's new, and you start giving them little tips and hints, they're like, how do you know all of this stuff? And you don't really realise, you just realise you've learned from all of these little mistakes that have come along. So it's great to have something be successful straight away, but actually having a few mistakes gives you the ability to learn. And I find that it's like your mistake comes at the right point. You make the mistake, like we're doing like a YouTube channels, and it's all right me making some mistakes when I'm recording on my own, because when we're doing something a bit like this where we've got more people involved, you've made some of those mistakes earlier on, so right, I should charge the battery, I should have done this thing. All these things come together, so you're constantly learning, and I think it just makes it better for the long term.
I think that's the one thing that I've been taught, kind of working for a startup compared to working for a big company. It's like it's okay to make mistakes.
Yeah.
Like, Jonas, you're not going to shout at me if I make a mistake, because I'll be learning from it. Whereas like a huge company, it's like one mistake and you're out, and you're shunned down and it's frowned upon. But yeah, I definitely think with a startup you are allowed to make those mistakes, because kind of in the long term it will probably make the startup even better.
Yeah, definitely. I like that, and I think that's one thing I'd say to more employees is I do think there's this fear that if you, I mean, I might be wrong, but if you're maybe in a startup, you want to give fresh ideas, I guess, as an employee, but you also don't want to say something too crazy in case you think the founder or the owner thinks it's a bit like, why are you saying that for? But yeah, I think it's really good if you are an employee in a startup to come up with some good ideas and make mistakes, because I mean, I don't know about you, Jonas, but I'd rather someone have an idea, try it out, and maybe it completely fails, maybe it works a little bit, but you can still learn from that, and at least you know that doesn't work. So if you're coming to scale a bit further on, at least we've tried that, it didn't work, or maybe it could have worked if we had tried it like this way instead.
Yeah. And you've got that person who is willing to try it and fail.
Yeah.
I think so many people are just they're limited by the fact that they don't want to fail, and
Yeah.
that outweighs the potential for them succeeding.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, I really encourage like not necessarily failure, but experimentation. But obviously without failure, you won't be able to experiment, right? Because if you're only following what others are doing, and then succeeding, right, you're already kind of late a bit, right?
Yeah.
So I like to be the first one and to do something a bit different and get some eyeballs on that. And it has a flip side as well. And I do want to touch on your business partner just a bit. The fact that, so for example, I'm a sole founder, and having somebody that's not necessarily a co-founder, but is brave enough, I guess, and confident enough to go and challenge my ideas, my perception, and then introduce new, completely different ideas is really, really valuable, because as a founder that doesn't really have a soundboard as much, and you're just like in your own little bubble, it's quite easy to be quite short-sighted because you're just so in it all the time. And so my question to you then is, how important do you think is when you're starting out to have a co-founder? Because I've seen both as well, and I've seen I've fallen out as well with my previous co-founder. That's not necessarily the reason I am the sole founder now, but I have seen both sides. I'm curious to see, because are you a sole founder essentially now?
Yeah.
So you've seen the difference as well.
Yeah.
Would you, if you were to start again, would you be purposefully and actively looking for a co-founder, or would you just go solo and see how it goes?
I think I'd go solo. I mean, this is the thing, and with Adam, my sort of co-founder, we're still really good friends to this day, and we give each other business advice to this day. We speak quite frequently, but we did, at the time we fell out, we had a real big falling out because our minds were in different places. He had another business as well, which he was concentrating on, and I think there's like pros and cons of having a founder, because I think on one side, from the early days, I really loved it because we were spurring each other on, we were giving each other ideas. He's very good at design, and I wasn't at the time, like graphic design. And not only that, you finish work, you go down the pub or a night out, and you're pumped for the future.
Yeah.
You've got someone else to sort of, who knows maybe the pains you're going through or the risks you're going through. And now on my own, I kind of miss that a little bit, because I don't want to bore my staff about any debt you might have, or a shipment that's coming in a bit late. It's like, I can't keep that to myself. So it's nice to have someone to soundboard with. On the other side, when it starts to go a bit pear-shaped, it's difficult, because if, say, your co-founder's not turning up until midday, and you're turning up at 9, they're still 50% the owner. They can technically do what they want. It may not be what you've agreed, but who's right and who's wrong? The other person, I can guarantee you that both of you think you're right. And I think that's what I'd say. If you're thinking of starting a business, especially with a friend, I probably wouldn't do it again. I don't think I would. I would maybe have a friend involved as a shareholder or an advisor, that kind of thing. So like me and Adam now, as I say, we get along really well. I give him advice on his business, he gives it to me on mine. And we have spoke about doing something again, but I think we would only do it if someone else could run it and we were just inputting, rather than it being like completely equal. It's sort of, it's very, very hard.
Yeah.
Very hard.
Because one thing that I've noticed, so I would probably go the other way around. I would always at least try to get a co-founder in, right? Yeah. For exact reasons you just said, if it's a really downtime, something like that, you don't want to bring that home. You don't want to put that on your employees' heads because they've got enough to worry about.
Yeah.
Just having that almost like therapeutical type of thing.
Yeah.
But the different thing I would do is, because it is like a relationship, isn't it? Like I do really like intense hard vetting. Right, all the background check, all the references, like, ask around for people like, how is he, not as a person only, but like in the office, like, what are his habits, like what's his day-to-day looking like, all that kind of stuff before I commit. So it doesn't necessarily need to be a friend, but I think that's the way I would approach it, like a lot more structured. But I
think that's a good point. And I think if from my point of view, neither of us had done a business before, and I think that's what happens a lot of the time. You're down the pub with a friend and you're like, oh, I've got this great idea for a square coffee cup. Yeah, let's do it. And neither of you have had business experience. Whereas I think if you had someone new who makes coffee cups and they've been doing it for 10 years, that probably would be a great co-founder to have, because they're going to set you up straight away. One question I was going to say, actually, from an employee's point of view, one thing I always worry about, actually, sort of starting a business, is that I feel in my head that because I'm thinking about too many things, like I'm thinking about the marketing, I'm thinking about the staffing, I'm thinking about the products coming in, I sometimes worry that to my staff, to them it will look like I'm thinking about nothing, because I'm spending a little bit of time on this, a little bit of time on this. You know, one may say, what should I do about this design for whatever, this thing? And I'm probably not giving it as much time as I should, because I'm worried also about that thing over there and that thing over there. Yeah. As an employee, do you kind of feel that too, that, hard to explain, but maybe
I can really piggyback on that, to be honest. Yeah.
Do you feel like maybe Jonas or other bosses you've had, they're not into it enough, or they're not caring about maybe the thing you're doing enough, because maybe they've got their eyes on so many things? That's what I always worry about.
It's interesting. Like, we do these we'll do like Monday proper updates, but then even every single day we do these like little to-do lists. This is what I'm working on today. And most of the time, the employees will go, I'm working on this and this, and it's like, oh, this is really good stuff. And I'm like, I'm just going to work on stuff. There's nothing to really...
I completely get what you mean there. In terms of day to day, I'm not too sure what you're doing. And so I have a defined, well, it's not too defined, but usually I'll have a defined job that I have to do today. And like, I'll get it done, and that'll be like my day accomplished. Whereas with you, Jonas, I get the feeling that it's more like you're overseeing the whole thing, and I never have any doubt in my mind that Jonas is doing everything all day that will benefit the company. And if anything, I feel like you work too much rather than not working enough. But I think the founder should be, I feel like there's a much better analogy for this, but I feel like all the employees should have these little roles within the company, and then the founder, while not doing a particular role, is kind of this blanket all over everything, and is able to help out each employee and go to each employee and also give advice and that type of thing. So I get that point of view of how it can seem like the founder isn't doing anything. I think that's because they're doing everything to kind of a lesser degree.
That's a very interesting point, because I found myself a couple of times, because my I guess by trade I'm a graphic designer, right? That's like the go-to thing where I started. And sometimes there are days like, right, I really need to bash out some sort of a design or something that's visible to the whole team, just to showcase I'm still here, guys. I'm doing stuff. So I definitely agree with you. And that kind of comes back to also like doing like personal branding stuff and all that. Like, you do say a video or something like that, you post it on, it's like, I wonder how my employees think about it, because it looks very egotistical. So like, I'm just doing stuff on my own while you work on my business, right? But you started a YouTube channel like 10 years ago, something like that. You're reviewing iMacs and stuff, right? And you did mention you're still doing those YouTube videos today. And from what I've seen, it's a very big part of your company, of your kind of sales funnel, right? Can you talk to me about that? Why did you feel even 10 years ago that was the thing to go for?
I think, because we were saying this before we started recording, and so we had the YouTube channel. I think we started in 2006, 2008, and we, everyone else was just putting out adverts for their business, that was the place we just hosted videos, really. This was before you had the sort of big YouTubers. It was really just cat videos and that kind of stuff.
The good old days.
Good old days, yeah. And I don't think you could even monetize YouTube, so there was none of that. There was no real YouTube influencer marketing at the time. And I just thought if we review like an iMac, which is what we did, or a phone for its like camera capabilities, I thought at the time, like I do now, that this is great because it's the interest of our ideal customer. You know, someone who's really into what computer they're going to get for their video editing. Not only if they're already an Editor's Keys customer who have one of our keyboards, they're going to be interested in that kind of topic, but also if they're not an Editor's Keys customer, they may find out about us through this channel. Now, I don't think I really at the time communicated that very well with my staff, so I was just on my own after work filming a review about the iMac, posting it up, and so I guess they would come in and they'd be like, "You've been here till like 1 a.m. editing an iMac video, don't we need to promote this Photoshop keyboard we've just done?" And I'm like, yeah, we do, but I'm just going to do a video about this phone now. And I remember them at the time, and they're like, look, they both said it to me together, so they must have talked about it. And they said, you know, we think it's a bit weird. You're reviewing products. You know, we haven't got any videos about our own products. And to be fair, I think that was a fair criticism. We had 2 or 3 videos about iMacs and stuff. We didn't have any videos about how you use our own products. So the balance wasn't there. And I remember one of the guys said, look, you know, if you look at Nike and if you look at Adidas or Hugo Boss, if you go on their Twitter and you go on their YouTube, it's not the founder there talking all day about various bits and pieces. It's Hugo Boss, the brand. And I think when I sat down, I thought, you know, maybe they're right. You know, no one else is really doing this. I think might have been a couple of businesses doing it, but not really anyone else is doing this. Yeah, they're probably right. I should focus on us growing as a brand because we were still quite small. But I really think if we'd have kept that going in the early days, it would have really, really paid off, because about a year and a half ago, I started doing it again. I thought, right, I'm going to get back into it. And it has paid off because you build a community, you start building that trust. You also have videos that you can send people back to. So now we do a mix. We probably do 8 videos that are about editing, and then we do 2 that are maybe about the product, but it's more how to use our product within the workflow. So I find that these videos actually help with customer service, customer care. Even the staff sometimes, if I've done a video about how you set up the microphone, they don't have to explain on the phone, they can just send a link to this video. But also, we're probably getting 70% of our web visitors from YouTube now, one way or another. It might not be directly through our videos, it might be through influencers or reviewers. But we're just finding it's just really building that community. And then when you get people on the phone or email, they already feel like they know the business a little bit. They trust you. That, you know, I guess why would you be on YouTube showing your stuff off if it was rubbish? You know, you've got some sort of faith in your business. So I really wish, I'm going off on a tangent there, but I really wish I would have kept it going from 10 years ago, because I think it would be a completely different ball game now. You know.
So do you think that's a trait that most innovators and founders obviously really have to have, is sometimes ignore the noise and really, if you feel it kind of in your gut, just go for it. Yeah,
I think so. And going back to what you were saying about, you know, doing the personal branding stuff, I completely get. I feel the same. You filming yourself, and it does feel a bit egotistical, and you know, you're getting people to follow you around with cameras and stuff. And genuinely, I'm doing it because I want it to help the business and therefore help the staff and everything like that. But I could completely get how if you're new to the business or you're a staff member and you think, right, we've got this deadline to meet of this product coming out, and he's over there just filming himself talking about an iPhone. Like, how does this help? You know. Yeah. But there is, in my mind, there's this genuine, like, this is going to help us pull 2 more customers in. And it's not just like one video. You know, I think a lot of people think it's, if I do a YouTube channel or personal branding, you're just looking for that one viral. And you're not really, you're looking for that snowball effect. You know, that video will get me 2 customers. This next video might get 1. The next one might get 10. But all these videos live up there forever. So over time, in maybe a year's time, we might be getting 100 customers in a month from all of these videos we've done last year, you know.
The amount of trust that a customer will gain, rather than going on a website and just seeing a logo and a picture, as opposed to going on your YouTube channel, seeing your face and your voice and opinions, promoting a product, so much more likely to trust you and trust the brand, and also feel like they've built some kind of relationship with the brand. I feel like a lot of YouTubers anyway, it's like if you watch a YouTuber, you think that you're their friend, and you know them on a personal level. So taking that into branding and into selling a product that is actually such a smart idea to do.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, 100%. And I just think it makes you more approachable as well. You know, if you've got someone out there talking to you and you, like you say, you feel like you know them, I think you're going to be much more likely to write them a comment, or if you see them, talk to them, or if they came into your office now, you have something to talk about straight away. Or even if you're just talking about their videos they did, I think it definitely helps, and it'll help the company if it's a company one. It's probably like, partly probably why I'm sitting here now is because we've done videos and done a bit of that personal and business branding. At some point, I guess that must have come into play and made this happen somehow. Whereas if I was just hiding behind the wall.
And I would imagine in today's world, it's a lot easier to communicate that message and get that across to your employees saying, this YouTube stuff is really going to work. Look at all these others that have made it. But 10 years ago, that's not a conversation you really can have, because you're going to be the guy that does it. I mean, again, coming back to somebody like Gary Vaynerchuk, right? He did exactly that with wines, isn't it? Just doing wine library. So I think when it comes to kind of introducing new things, the people that you surround yourself with, I think you really need to be, I guess, careful and purposeful who you hire. And sometimes it's not just based on CV, skill set, education. It's also, what kind of personality you are and stuff like that. So I'm really curious to understand, when you did your very first hires, how did you go about that? What were they? What were you looking out for, and how did that kind of process go?
Yeah, I think that's one area where I definitely made some mistakes to begin with. I think, having a business that was growing, and a little bit like we were talking earlier about when to make that jump between leaving your job and taking and going full time. The first employees were a bit like that. It was like, could I afford to take someone on? And if I do, and I think this is, I guess, something that a lot of founders don't talk about, but if you're a founder of a business, and let's say the business is turning over 40,000 a year and you're taking a wage, if you now want to employ a member of staff to do customer care or something, you're going to have to pay them minimum wage and whatever, and may not be full time, but you're probably going to have to pay them at least 15 grand a year sort of to get that started. So that's a wage that you could have had yourself if you just did more work. So there's all these sort of factors that go into play. And so I think probably what I did wrong is I couldn't really afford staff to begin with. So I was just looking for the cheapest person to come and do a job, if I'm completely honest, to begin with. And really that didn't work too well. I mean, we had people who could answer emails and stuff fine, but they weren't into filmmaking or editing at all. And I think that kind of hindered it a little bit, because they weren't necessarily up for what I was trying to get the business to do. So now we have more people that are actually into media production or design, so they kind of get what we're trying to do. They would use the keyboard probably themselves. So I made a lot of mistakes in the early days. Just I think pricing too low, definitely not. I don't know what the right word is, but I think I didn't vet people enough, and I probably still don't. I think hiring is one. I definitely say is not one of my strong points, because if someone's in a room opposite me, I kind of want to give people a chance to, and I think even that's been hard. I think I've probably had someone who's been perfect for the job, but this next person who's come in has said, I'd love to have this job, and I can tell they're probably not right, but I think, you're a bit like me. You want to work hard and you want to work. But actually, the reason they've maybe not done very well is because they're good at that little bit of doing the job interview, but when you get them in, there's a reason why they're just not that driven. They're not that pushing themselves forward. Whereas this other person who didn't seem quite as friendly is clearly a lot more driven, because,
Did you maybe found like specific questions or anything like that would act like as triggers to understand some personalities or anything like that? Did kind of because your hiring process obviously changed throughout the years, based on experience, because I know it did for me. I keep reiterating my questionnaires essentially, and like what I'm looking for. I'm curious, like what was that for you?
I think, and it's something, again, I think I really need to improve on, because, again, not coming from a business world originally, I think the sort of jobs I had, I come from Great Yarmouth, so it was just like I did jobs like working in a chippy, flipping burgers, paper rounds, working in a DIY store. So I'd never even really worked for a proper, other than ITV, a proper big corporate company where I've had a proper job interview.
Which can be a really good thing, by the way.
Yeah, definitely. But I think with the interviews, I think I just now the job post, I start off there and I make that much more strict in terms of you must be into this. You know, you must have at least you must watch these sort of YouTube channels or this thing, just so that when they come in and I say, let's talk about even your favorite YouTubers or something like that, I know they have at least a passion into it. Whereas before it was just like, could you see yourself doing customer care? Could you see yourself doing this? And of course everyone is like, yeah, I can see myself being the best at that. But I wasn't asking the right questions to see if they were naturally into that or had that drive. So I'd probably learn some stuff off you because I think that's one of my
because that's an
weak
interesting one, because that's the thing. I think we spoke about that as well, not necessarily in the podcast, might be something we need to touch on. But the fact that, you know, what I aim to do now is ask the questions that you would not be prepared for in a normal interview, right? Not like where you see yourself in 5 years and stuff like that. You know, all of that stuff, and especially if it's in the job post. You know, first, if you're not prepared for what's on your job post, you're immediately out, right? That's not even. But even, you know, if it's on the job post, I might not care about YouTube at all, but I'll find 3 that I supposedly like, and I'll watch a couple of videos and I'll talk about them, right? It's very hard to go over that, what's real, what's not. So what I at least try to do, is ask those questions that you would not get. And probably one of my favorite ones, and I'm stealing that from somebody else. I don't remember exactly who. I think it was the founder of WeTransfer. And he, the main question is kind of understand the personality, which is, would you rather be kind of the smartest person in the room, but the most hated, or would you be the kindest in the room and everybody loves you, right? And funnily enough, it's a very 50-50 split. I think the split is like 51% kind and the rest of it's smart. Because the thing is, like, that shows you like what the value is, right? You know, because some people will go like, well, I'm the smartest. Like, you need the best. You need a genius in your room. Like, if I'm hiring a developer, it's like, I'm the smartest genius in the matrix all the time. I don't need to talk to anybody, right? And then you've got the others, it's just like, like, I'll just do whatever, you know, I'll just make sure that the culture stays, you know, I'll make everybody happy around me and stuff like that. So asking those type of questions will get the person who go like, right, they really have to try and think about it. Airbnb founders, I think they took it a bit too far, but theirs was, if you had, I think, a week to live, would you take the job? And you know, and come in tomorrow, you know, and it's just that kind of stuff, right? You know, I don't know how many people would say but they will understand, like, oh, you've got 1 week left to live, and you want to spend it with our team, then we want you, right?
I think that's the problem with job interviews. It's that if you're outspoken and confident, then you're probably likely to get the job. But if someone who's shy and isn't very confident in front of people, but they're perfect for the role, they're not really, they're probably not going to get it. But if you do ask those questions and kind of try and find out more about them, that's when you do find the right person. So I know so many people, especially from uni, that are kind of, they're really smart and they're really driven in what they want to do, but they have absolutely no social skills. If there's someone they don't know, they've never met before, they're just going to go into the shell and not express their best traits. I do think it's like you have to train, you almost have to put on your CV that you're good at job interviews. That kind of thing is a skill that you need to learn. That has nothing to do with the job that you're applying for. So I think that is the better way to go as a founder to employing people.
Obviously, it depends on the role as well. You know, if I'm, you know, talking about personalities, you know, obviously, I think, again, it's a quite a big responsibility for us as founders to maybe, you know, unlock your potential and make you feel comfortable enough to get there. But we need to see beyond that, right? But obviously, if the role is, say, to be in front of a camera as your day one and you're in your shell, maybe obviously that's not the right thing. But yeah, it's just one of those many things that maybe you don't think about, but we think about all the time, isn't it? I'm curious to understand, if you were to lose literally everything right now, right? Everything went to zero. I know you've got multiple businesses, which we even didn't talk about yet, but say everything went to zero, no employees, no sales, no product, nothing. Would you, after your experience right now, would you start again some sort of a business, or would you just go, right, I might just go to a 9 to 5?
Yeah, I think 100% I will. I mean, because I come from, both my parents have sort of grew up on council estates and quite, I wouldn't say a poor upbringing, definitely not, but like, we were not, I would say we were not that wealthy growing up. My mum's a cleaner. And I think sort of coming from that sort of working class background, I think it puts you in the right stride for not worrying so much about a potential loss. I think if you've maybe, I don't know, I guess I can't speak for anyone else, but if you come from a background where there's loads of money, I guess there's this like stigma that you've just sort of lost everything. Whereas if you start, I guess, much lower down, that I felt like I did, just sort of very working class, I didn't really have that much to lose. So losing it all, starting again, it's just like, okay, well, I'm just back here again, but I've dealt with it before, it's fine. But I think what I would do is I would happily go into any kind of job. I know there's a lot of people who have like this, I'm not working at McDonald's, I'm not doing this sort of job, which I think is like a terrible attitude to have, because I think I would, if I lost everything, I would start like a job like that and then just start saving that 100, 200 pounds a week or month, just then start the other business. It would be like a stepping stone back to getting a business started again. I think I'd probably maybe take like a year out to really sit back and work out why the thing I was doing went wrong, and just kind of get my compass right again. But yeah, I think I would definitely start something again. I think I would find it quite hard now to work for someone else unless it was something I was really passionate about, because I think I'd be annoying as an employee, because I would just be chipping in at everything. I'm not a marketing person per se, but I'd be going over to the marketing team saying, well, why don't you try this? I used to do this. And they'd be like, oh, shut up, sit down. So yeah, I think I would definitely.
Yeah, and it sounds to me that the reason for that, a lot of it at least, is that you really enjoy the day-to-day process. You're not really working towards this big exit or anything like that. You're just enjoying the day-to-day, you can call it a grind, but it's not really if you enjoy it, right? You like the little wins, the doubling downs and everything like that. I imagine, when you're working towards like this big, massive, golden nugget or whatever it may be, I guess you can get fatigued a bit and maybe sick of it a bit, and that's a thing what I see a lot, especially in tech startups, right? Is you found a company, you're working towards an exit, and you want to start something new, right? There's no this longevity. I'm gonna make this almost my life's work, and make sure that it just continues always to grow. It's like I need to get it to a point, go away from it, and just do something else, right? Now, in terms of that mentality, I'm seeing all the patterns, and I'm just curious to hear what you think, because you come from a family that wasn't rich or anything like that. You dropped out of university. You started a business with not even no money, like all overdraft, right? Overdraft, and that basically created this personality that you're just not afraid to fail at all. Like, it's just like, well, what's the worst that can happen? Oh, this, all right, it's just another one of those, I'll carry on. Do you feel going through challenges and adversity kind of early on in your life is something that, well, not necessarily entrepreneurs need, but it's something that's very beneficial before you start a business?
Yeah, 100%. I think it's very easy in life to think that everything is super hard for yourself and you've got it tough. But I just think we all have to be super thankful of everything we've got and the opportunity that we've got. And even if you have the ability to even start a business, think how lucky you are to actually just go and do that. Even if you're doing it for 6 months and it doesn't work, think how lucky you are to have that opportunity to start a business, to have a computer, a laptop. There's so many kids around the world who don't have the opportunity, don't even own a laptop. You know, the parents can't even afford to get them a laptop. So even if you're at that stage of just starting a business, you are so lucky. If you're an employee, you're so lucky. And I think starting with that mind frame first of just how lucky you are to be on this earth, to grow up in Europe, to grow up in the UK, to have a laptop, to have a job, you're so lucky already. So you haven't got so much you can lose. I mean, try telling someone in a third world country that your life's hard and this thing might not work. So I think having the mindset of just being very grateful to start with sets you up on the right course. So and that's one other thing when you were saying something a minute ago, it just sort of reminds me about the amount of people who have said, "Oh, I'd love to have my own business because it'd just be so much easier and you get to do your own time and work whenever you want." And you probably know when you've got your own business, that's not how it is. You work till 2 a.m. and I work Saturdays and Sundays, most weekends, and I can't switch off. And sometimes I'm more jealous of someone who's got a job because I think at 5 you turn off, you can go for beers with your friends, and you have Saturday, Sunday, and then you come back fresh-minded. I sometimes feel like my mind's just in business all the time, which I enjoy. But I'm almost a bit jealous of someone having a job in a weird way. It's kind of, you know.
I think from my point of view of that, because I maybe, apart from working with journalists and seeing how much work he does, I am a bit guilty of that kind of mindset of art must be so easy, that type of thing. I think because with a founder, you are working hard and you're working till 2 a.m. But that's your time.
Yeah.
You're not doing it for someone else.
Yeah.
You're not putting in these big shifts for other companies that aren't necessarily going to appreciate your work.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You're doing it off your own back and because you want to do it.
Yeah.
I think people are much more capable of working until 2 a.m. If they know it's going to benefit them directly and no one's telling them to do it. They're just going out and doing it themselves.
Yeah, that's a good point actually. And I think that's maybe one thing I think from stories I've heard. I think some founders do forget that if they've got an employee, if they're working until 2 a.m, they'll expect everyone else to be every single night working until 2 a.m. And I think as a founder, you can probably forget that it's not your employees' babies, it's yours. And it is a different kind of mindset to be in. But I just enjoy, I think I just enjoy doing it. I enjoy the grind. I enjoy the learning. And like I say, I just being thankful that you get the chance to do it.
Yeah.
You know, even if I lost it all, in 10 years, I could say, "Oh, I had the company 10 years ago. It was great fun, and we did this." To me, it's just like another story to tell, or it's another learning curve, or you know. And I think things always generally work out well in the end. You know, even if you're an employee, even if you're a business person, and something fails, or you get sacked, or the business collapses, generally, if you're the right mindset, that sets you up for the next thing, and you're going to do the next thing 10 times better because you've gone through that failure. So, it's one thing I never had is that worry of it failing, because if it does, it does. You know, but I'll just do everything I can to sail the ship in the right direction. But if it does, I tend to think probably it was either out of my hands, like it could be something like COVID, or I just didn't do the job well enough. So I need to learn why it failed if it does, you know. So I'm happy with either eventuality, you know.
Yeah. So the very last thing I want to do is we've got just a very few questions selected from our audience that they asked in the podcast, and actually goes very well in line with this. So one of them is how do you balance running a business and your kind of daily life? Because you said obviously you're working weekends, even and stuff like that. Do you have a wife or kids or anything like that? Yeah. So is that something that your wife was aware of from the get-go, that's going to be the case, or like how do you find that balance and keep that relationship going without her being pissed off, essentially?
Yeah. So she's great because she now runs a business, which she didn't do when we first met. I kind of like
So you
pushed
converted it.
Yeah, converted. Yeah, and when we first started, actually, that was when I was buying my business partner out. So that was when I had no money. I had, sort of, I think it's 10 to 20 grand's worth of debt. The business was kind of really at its worst point because we were separating, and I didn't want to put the work in until I'd bought him out. So she was kind of helped me cover my rent. She was like looking after me. So she's always been great from the start. And I think she's always understood that I was going to have to put a lot of work in to really build it back up. But even as we went along, I think it was more like on holiday. I'd take the MacBook with me or the iPad, and I'd be just checking on emails. And she'd be like, oh, can you not just put that away for like 10 minutes? Let's go out and go for a walk. Yeah. But now she started a business. She has her own production company, and she's worse than me now. So we go on holiday, and we're terrible because we'll both be sitting there on the bed, a bit of beach over there, and we're like on the laptop for an hour in the morning. And we both keep saying, right, next time we're not going to take laptops with us. But it's just when it comes around, you're like, oh, that thing's coming in. I need to check this is going all right. And I'll just check it for an hour while you're in the shower. But.
And do you think that's sustainable?
I think as long as you're both, when it comes to relationship, I think as long as you're both on the same page, it's usually okay. I think I think you do need to be mindful of the other person and yourself. I think you can work too hard, because I think I found sometimes I'll just work to work, and probably I could have waited until the next day and come with a clean mind and fresh cup of coffee, and I would have probably got it all done much quicker. I think, especially with YouTube and stuff, I can get into a bit of a rabbit hole of wanting to learn how to do something, and I'll watch 20 videos on the same thing, which all take, half an hour each, and I'm sitting up all night. And really the answer was in the first video, but I just wanted to make sure. And so I do have to get better at it myself. But I think, in a relationship, I think you do have to be mindful of the other person. If they're not, you're going to push them away if they're not 100% on the same page as you.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll just kind of piggyback on this question just a bit and touch on burnout, because I would imagine throughout 15 years you've dealt with that. Yeah. How did you deal with it?
Yeah, I've definitely had it. I think a couple of areas. One when I was buying my partner out, and then I think just before we started doing the YouTube again, I was getting a little bit bored, if I'm honest. We've got an online business, so I don't speak to the customers directly. It's all handled very well, so they place an order online, and we weren't doing the YouTube videos. I don't have that many staff, so I just felt almost a bit lonely, a bit down, and I think it was just like, do I want to be doing this for the rest of my days? I'm enjoying it, but it's just a bit lonely, So I think actually that would be a bit of advice. If you do ever feel like that, what can you do, maybe even within your business to maybe, network a bit or create a community? So for me, doing that YouTube channel, again, was great because it was something that I enjoyed doing. I actually enjoyed editing, and I wasn't doing that anymore. We were building a community. The staff are a bit more involved in it too. And they're seeing that, like, the instant benefits of getting a lot of views and subscribers and things. So I think that definitely helped. Those burnout phases, just kind of sitting back and thinking, what can we do to change things up? So I'm a little bit less stressed, or we're just getting a bit more excitement back into yourself or your business. Yeah.
And so I think like from my perspective as well, I think I take a bit of a different approach. I almost force myself, and especially my employees, to do clock out at 5, to have those evenings, to have those weekends, so that they're ready to go. If there was a case that we need to work the weekend, I know you're at the top of your game, because I know all of my employees are ready to go. Like, if we need to do something over the weekend, they'll do it, right? But that's kind of, I want to make sure that each and every single day they're fresh. Yeah. And that includes me as well. Like, I used to be full on all the time, in the office at 5, go to sleep at 12, just go. Until I started slowly burning out, right? That's even kind of worse. There's no like one crash. It's just like continuous going down. And now it's kind of like, it's now different because I got a kid, so it's a different game. But before that, it's like 6 o'clock, phone airplane mode, 6 to 9, family time, whatever that is, Netflix and chill, just completely like dumb it out, right? Or even if it's, educational, but it's just something very different, you know, or just going, I know, play basketball or something that's completely out of work. And I think forcing yourself to switch off from your business is okay. Like, it's not gonna die. Like, you should be confident enough that you've done the groundwork that it shouldn't die. And that's kind of my approach from it as well.
I think the example you gave of you're sat next to a beach but you're still working. Most people work hard and work for a job they don't enjoy because they have in their head they're working towards getting on that beach.
Yeah.
So the fact that you are at that beach but you're still working shows that you actually enjoy what you do, and it isn't that I have to work so that I can go to the beach, that type of thing. I think that's where you know you've made it when you're at the place you want to be, as in the beach or drinking a cocktail. You know but you're still doing the work.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. Yeah, I think that's probably one of the freedoms of having your own business or working for a business that is a bit more chilled. You can do that. I think the problem is, though, you can, when you do it too often, because I think it does sound quite nice, like being at the beach doing work, but in reality, you're just missing out on life a little bit sometimes. And I think if you don't switch off, and you know, because the phones are the worst. You're constantly checking your phones. You're getting a tweet in, you know, and it's like Jonas was saying. I think it's good to have some just clean breaks, so that when you do come in, you're fresh, because you're still naturally going to think about your work or your business, but you can actually just take a seat back and be like, it's just something that just clicks every now and again. You're like, this is why this isn't working, because you've taken like 2 hours to do something differently.
You can reflect on it better rather than being distracted by just normal work stuff.
Yeah.
I think you tend to listen more to employees and your friends and stuff as well. If you're just in it and someone's like ringing you, you're not really listening to them. Your head's still in that space. I like it's a bit hard now with COVID, but I used to like just getting out for a coffee and just watching the world go by, and you know, just sit in Starbucks or something at the window for a couple of hours, you know.
So I'm conscious of how much time this is already taking. So I'm just going to do one last one, because I think it's quite important from the audience. This was more towards me, but I think it will be an interesting conversation. So the question is, how did you raise capital from the beginning, right? So with Orfi Active, before it was Orfi Active, you know, it was called differently, and we failed at it. But that one was completely bootstrapped, right? No investment, nothing. Really went through all that struggle. Like, you know, you get a salary from your 9 to 5, put it all back, and stuff like that, right? As far as I know, you've not raised funding, or have you?
Not really, no. So to begin with, it was bootstrapped. Technically, it was like my overdraft that paid for the start, and then we just reinvested all the money back in. So for a long time, we just didn't take a wage, because we both had sort of part-time jobs. Yeah. So we just invested every penny back into the business for a long time. And then I needed a loan when I brought my business partner out. And I was quite lucky that was when there was like a bad recession, and I couldn't get a loan from the bank, but a cameraman at ITV actually loaned me the money. So I paid him I think 5 or 10% interest, which is, you know, quite high, but I was just so grateful that he trusted me enough to do that. So we did that, and I think that there was only a time, I think we've been quite lucky then, because we had so many years of just being okay as a business. There was a point when we started doing the studio series recording gear. We needed about 50 grand to kind of do some of the moulding and get some of the first stock. But luckily, the bank lent us that money, so it wasn't very hard to get the money at that point.
So I guess I want to flip the question just a bit. Is, well, in the startup world, and I guess again, my biggest reference is tech startups, right? There is this notion that unless I get the funding, I won't start. I need the money to start, right? Which for me, it's not the case, right? Kind of prove the concept and everything, and maybe then go for funding. Do you feel similarly? Like, do you feel like you don't need money really to start? You just need a customer, maybe? Like,
yeah, 100%. I think sometimes, and this is easier for me to say because I've never done it, but I think it's very fashionable to be an entrepreneur at the minute and to be a startup at the minute. So I can probably imagine there's quite a lot of people who they're looking for the investment, And that's the champagne moment. You know, we've got this, I don't know, £500,000 investment. You know, let's go out partying, let's get the staff in. But probably at that point, you're still not really sure what you're doing. You know, you've got your investment and you might have written a nice business plan, but I think it would take a little bit longer, but I think you could have maybe not given half your business away, and you could have learned a lot more along the way by starting it very slowly, because you've come across the pain points and the problems a lot quicker when you do it yourself, because you haven't got the money. You know, I think if your advertising budget's £500 a month and that's all you can afford to get started, and someone's just giving you £500,000, you're not going to be too concerned if you've wasted £2,000 a month on advertising. You know, it's like free. I imagine it feels like free money.
It feels like,
you know?
that, yeah. Until you reach the bottom of you almost have no money in the bank. Yeah. Well, thanks a lot for your time, Mark. This was an amazing conversation. I think we could go forever, but there's only so much attention span that all of us have. I'd be really excited to get you back on sometime soon. And so, yeah, for anybody watching and listening, if you're editing anything, whether it's on iMacs, whether it's on MacBooks, Windows machines as well, you need editor's keys. It just makes your life so much easier, makes everything so much faster. You'll just need a couple of YouTube videos to get you started, and you're good. If you're doing any podcasting or anything like that, you've got studio series going on as well, where you do USB mics, you do all the equipment as well. We'll link everything below. But yeah, Mark's doing a lot of amazing stuff. Really great to have you on board, and I wish you all the best. Thanks a lot.
For having me. Thank you.
Cheers, man.